This is a test of the boundary part alert system. We've got Adam and Steve from Push the Boundary, and we've also got Ed, who is a Latics fan, who I chatted to after I heard him talking on BBC Radio Manchester. I talked to him last week, I think it was. So I thought I'd invite him onto the podcast to have a chat. As always with Oldham, there's plenty to talk about. We're recording this on Sunday off the back of a 3-2 defeat to the mighty Crawley Town. I watched it. I wasn't obviously impressed with the result. I think I just listened to Harry's post-match in full there. Not really anything to say from that in terms of there's not really any wisdom or learning to be taken from what he had to say, I'm afraid. I think on the positives, we scored 2. We made some chances, but we conceded 3 and we lost. So 3 out of 3 defeats, bottom of the table.
Yeah, I think if you were looking at these fixtures at the start of the season, and I think people would be lying if they said they weren't optimistic to an extent with the players that we got. And the fact that we've got 0 points from a potential 9 against Leyton Orient, Stevenage and Crawley is very worrying and actually just depressing.
I think that's it, isn't it? I mean, I think when we went on the Leyton Orient podcast, the lowdown, and they asked us, like, what are you expecting from your first 5 games? And I think we said, 9 points, maybe 7 to 9 points or something like that. And to be fair, that was probably weighted more towards the game against Crawley, the Leyton Orient game. And I mean, Stevenage away, they have made some signings, but you still sort of felt like you could pick something up. It's the games against, is it Colchester away coming up, which is going to be a tough one. So yeah, where we are at the minute with no points is not great at all.
What did you make of the performance, Adam?
Same old, wasn't it? Obviously, you get the feeling that, we might start off all right here when we had a couple of chances early on. Rowe missed a chance. Keeler Dunn missed a couple. When Rowe scored, we thought it was going to change, and then within 40 seconds, they went down the other end and scored, and we're just completely on the back foot again. And it's same old. Defensively wise, we look so naive. I generally don't see where we're going to pick up a win from at the moment because, like Ed said there, for me, I would have been picking up or saying to anyone, we should be picking up at least 9 points from those first 3 games if we're going to do anything this season.
It's just so Latics, isn't it? The goal went in, and none of us were jumping and cheering lunatics. I shouldn't imagine. It was just more of we've scored and we're ahead. And then you get this kind of little feeling of optimism. And like you said, Steve, or whoever it was, 40 seconds is all it lasted. And then after another 8 minutes, it's gone again. We're back to, it's just so hard to cling on to anything positive, isn't it? I mean, I thought there was some positives from the performance yesterday. I thought that the George Blackwood came on. I thought he looked like he might be quite a good player. But I was dismayed by the formation and the structure of the team, especially when he came on. It seemed that him and Rowe were playing down the right-hand side a lot, and these 2 big men. And he made a substitution. He brought the only person that was causing a threat with his delivery was Grant. I think he's got an excellent left foot on him. His deliveries from corners and his crosses are excellent. He took him off and brought Fage on, which I thought was stupid, especially as he had 2 big men on the pitch. And so even when you're seeing these encouraging signs, there were a few shoots of optimism yesterday, but there still seems to be the bigger problems outweigh those little glimmers. Do you know what I mean?
I think the team is so weak. You know what I mean. Especially in the middle of the park. The Leeds guy didn't really get much of the ball yesterday, but he's only 5'6". The Leeds fans have been saying he's mustard, so the jury's out on that one.
Nothing wrong being 5'6", Ed.
In this division, this absolutely horrendous division where you've just got to muck in, and you need a team of big lads. It's not going to be pretty. It's what Stevenage did. They bullied us off the park, and as did Crawley yesterday. They just shut up shop. We managed to sneak one in, but we never looked like we were ever going to turn it around, did we? So if Whelan does score at the end, you're thinking, did we ever deserve that point? But I never went in and we lost at home to Crawley after taking the lead. I think that's what hurts the most, is that when you take the lead at home to a side like Crawley, you got to put another couple past them, surely.
So with this new lad then, where does this leave Garrity? I mean, I know that, you could say it's more like strength in depth in the squad. I use that term loosely, but it's more about, like, for me, I mean, you're replacing a young lad who we've got on a season-long loan with another young lad who's got a season on loan. If I was Garrity now, I wouldn't be thinking this looks good for me. If they were replacing him with a Chris McCann, somebody who's going to shore that midfield up and really start to control the tempo of games, then it's different. But you're kind of replacing like for like, and he does seem to come with good reviews. So fingers crossed he can settle in quickly, because I think we need someone that's got the attributes that he's supposed to have. But again, it's someone for me that's not played a lot of league football so far.
I think what it does do is it takes the pressure off them as individuals to have to perform every single week. But when I see these signings coming in, and what I'm looking at their age, and I'm thinking, that's not what we need. We need an older head. We need some experience. And like you say, we need a bit of size, a bit of physicality. Leyton Orient were a big team. And what we struggled against late, we didn't make any chances because we couldn't break them down. They were too physical for us. As much as it's like with the signings that we've made under the Abdullah reign so far, they're bringing in players that they want to perform a certain way, that they have this idealised vision of doing something. And then we're getting turned over by these big, physical, more experienced teams every week. So the lesson is being given to us through the experience of what's happening to us, isn't it?
When you look at every season, the teams that go up have that. And I say it every single, like the first 2 episodes, I've said it both times, and I've said it on social media. You need the spine of 3 nasty players. 3 nasty players that will drag you through games, and we've not got that. And then it's all right, keep bringing in these young lads, but they've got no experience around them. Pagiani is in there. He's looked not even half the player he was next to Wheater. Now he's next to John Batty, who I think looks to be a poor signing. It's no wonder he's having a bad time of it.
I think John Batty would have been a decent enough signing as cover for Wheater and Piergiani. I think, it brings us on to the Wheater issue, because since we'd last did the podcast, Harry has commented on the Woods and Wheater issue. We've had the statement from the club, which was basically, these 2 lads are now in the U team. That's all you need to know. It was an absolutely disgraceful statement. Very, very little information. I don't know if you saw the the Filed chairman's statement about their player and their issue.
Yeah.
Regardless of what you think about it, he's outlined the facts from his point of view, and it was detailed, and it was the kind of statement that you would expect, and show fans a bit of respect by giving them some detail. And then, unfortunately, Harry has made the whole situation worse by saying that there's no problem.
Just hate how everything that ever comes out of the club officially reads like a statement from North Korea. Like the supreme leader speaks. It was like 3 lines said, right, that's that. None of you speak about this anymore, please. It's disgraceful. And I tweeted yesterday, as every game passes where we ship another boatload of goals, the decision to not work something out with David Wheater just looks more laughable as each day passes. Because, like you said, Matt, he worked really well with Piergiani last season, just before the curtailment of the season. There was a bit of a spine developing, wasn't it? He had Piergiani, Wheater, he had McCann, and Durnley and Rowe were looking quite comfortable up top. He's fallen out with McCann, he's fallen out with Wheater. He manages to do it with, a handful of players every season. It's incredible.
It's always the experienced players, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
The young ones, he never seems to have an issue with, but people who may actually be liked by supporters or believe there may be something there, he always seems to have an attitude with, or they always seem to fall out of favour. And unfortunately, it's the same old, and the same situation that we've had for the last 2.5 years now.
Well, we know why that is, don't we? Because people like that, people like Wheater, McCann, experienced pros, they're not going to take any bullshit off people. They'll speak out. They're leaders. They're not just going to take it. Younger lads need opportunities. They're going to keep their mouth shut. But as soon as anybody in there...
Peter Clark's another one of that.
Exactly. And it's littered with it. And all it does is just show of this battle with the ego.
Was it the Exeter game a couple of years ago when it all sort of rumoured to be when Peter Clark apparently had a go at somebody in the dressing room, as happens in football clubs. And apparently the chairman, or whether it was Mo, took umbrage to what had been said. And then obviously Frankie Bunn went the next game, didn't he, after the Carlisle game? And it's almost like, you're in that situation. You need leaders in the dressing room. And at the minute you look on that pitch, and I don't see leaders at all. Piergiani is probably the closest that we've got to one. you need leaders all over the pitch, you know, in that spine. And I just don't really feel like we've got somebody to drag us through games like that at the minute.
Yeah, especially in a division like this, which is tougher. And you have to just be able to roll your sleeves up and battle and get on with it.
But if the chairman is then not encouraging that in the dressing room, then that, you know, that isn't. Totally. If you're taking those players out of the dressing room, it's not going to. They're not going to be out on the pitch, and it's just going to make the situation worse.
It's counterproductive. It is making the situation worse. That's what he's doing by not allowing Wheater to play. He's making the situation a lot worse, more difficult for Harry Kewell, more difficult for the team, disrespectful to the players, the fans. It's absolutely just a disgrace. What were you going to say, Ed?
Yeah.
Ishmael Miller was banished soon after that Exeter incident. I think something happened in the change room between him and Abdallah. So yeah, it's another senior pro that was promptly booted.
Well, that should never happen, first of all, because he should never be anywhere near the dressing room. He should, once those players are signed, he should have very little contact with them. I mean, one of the things that I was thinking about with all this was, on the podcast, on episode 1, we tried to be quite balanced and not panic, right? And then by episode 2, we were like, really panicking. I was crying
emotional.
And everything had gone, So I was kind of thinking about this a little bit, and I was thinking, are we all panicking a little bit too early into the season? Because, we've only played a few games and everything. But I'm not so sure we are, because this is not about this season, is it? This is about this season starting the way it has on the back of the last 2 seasons. And I put a tweet out there yesterday, I did a poll. I got 95 votes so far. Simple question, is there any hope? Right? And 92% of people said no. 92% out of 95 just believe that there is no hope, and that's just a very general, broad question. But Ed, I was talking to you last week, and you're 21, so you've only ever really known, apart from one good season back in the playoff days under Sheridan, you've only ever known League One misery and now League Two misery. And I asked you that question, didn't I? I said, is there any hope? And your answer was.
Well, that's the thing. That's what I asked Abdallah at the little fans meeting we had in January. I think there was one push the boundaries. I think Danny Taylor was there.
Yeah, Dan was there.
It was I was telling him about this last week. It was such a weird setup, that meeting. So we were all in like a semicircle, but the club managed to fill the room with with staff members. They had a camera on us. They filmed us. It was like some old Soviet intimidation tactics or something like that. And I remember I gave Abdallah, we had to ask one question at a time. So we went from the opposite end to me, and we went all the way around, and I was the last one to ask the question. And I asked Abdallah, what is there to look forward to? And he was, I gave him a big lecture that I've been a fan for, so many years. Everything's been League One, and it's just been horrifically depressing. What can you tell me now that you're going to do, push this club onwards? And he couldn't actually give me an answer. In fact, he actually stood up and offered me his chair instead, saying, well, it seems like you know more than me. And on the way out, as he was shaking everyone's hand, he was talking to someone, and we shook hands, but then he grabbed me by the arm. He said, you look someone in the eye when you shake their hand. It was all very, very scary.
It's pathetic, isn't it? I mean, what sort of mentality is that?
Yeah. I know, yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. We're not. It's not all about rumours. It's not all about everyone's got an issue with the owner for some unknown reason. There are first-hand accounts. There is people have had dealings with him. The fact, I don't know if you, as was pushed around, have actually had a dealing with him face to face. Have you at any point, or?
Yeah, we had a meeting in January. Yeah, January. Yeah, and yeah, I mean, I don't think he really, really wanted to be there, if I'm honest. He sort of like kept looking at his watch. Didn't. I think it was one of those. Every time you sort of ask him a question that he doesn't particularly like, you get that. You can almost see the hairs go up on the back of his neck.
Yes.
And he sort of straightens up in his chair, and he kind of, he gets quite prickly about any form of criticism whatsoever. And I think one of the things was we highlighted the number of players that he'd obviously fallen out with or have left the club and have said things. We read the quotes, that certain players have made, and he sort of tried to go through the list and answer each one individually. And we were like, no, we're not. We're sure there's like mitigating circumstances for each one. What we're saying is it keeps happening. But he wanted to sort of explain his position on every single one of them. And it's like, we're not saying that. We're saying that there's clearly something here that keeps happening.
Even in that meeting, it was, prime example, it was the day that we signed Danny Rowe. And in the meeting, they said, halfway through, we've just signed Danny Rowe. So I'd asked the question, how long has he signed for? And they said, oh, we're not disclosing that. We can't tell you. So at the same time, I'd gone on the website and it was disclosed on the website that he'd signed an 18-month contract. So I said, well, it's on the website. And they said, oh, that shouldn't have gone on there. Why does it matter the length of the contract? It's like everything has to be a secret.
North Korea, I told you.
Yeah.
No, but I mean,
We're obsessed with secrecy.
Yeah, that's it. It's kind of, it feels extreme to relate it to something like that. But in that, it's a system where, like I said, it's secrecy. You can't criticise. Anybody who does criticise and challenge is taken care of. You know, they might not be put in concentration camps. They've not fenced off Little Wembley just yet and made it into a concentration camp.
Give it time.
You know, and people aren't going missing, and there's no nerve gas aid. Oh, I mean, that I know of, but I'm assuming that. You know, so let's hope it never gets to that level of extremity. But on a smaller scale, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. You have somebody who leads with an iron fist, won't take criticism, and will blindly take us down this very, very, very dark path. And that's where we are well down that path now.
And I think everybody's got a tipping point, haven't they, with stuff like that? You know, I think certain people can sort of say, you know, this stuff isn't happening behind the scenes, and some will say it is, but the longer it goes on, I think, you know, last week on social media with the Wheater and Wood stuff, when it officially got announced that they weren't in the squad, I think that was a tipping point for quite a lot of people. You know, something has to change. Something fundamentally has to change at that football club, or we will become another Stockport. There's no question about that for me.
If something drastic had changed, like Mo no longer being director of football, at least you could say, well, that's a start. The signings that we've made since he's been director of football, or whatever role it is, it's still director of football. Not being funny, if I performed that badly in my job, I'd be sacked. We're 3 years in now, and he's still in that position of authority, having control over who comes in and who comes out. Not being funny, it's not worked. We're bottom of League Two. Where'd you go from there? Any other walk of life, you'd be sacked for doing such a poor job. But unfortunately, with him being the owner's brother, it seems like he's exempt from any blame.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, I think they had the opportunity to address that at Brighton Cricket Club. You know, where Mo famously said that recruitment was going well and he was doing a good job. So, you know. What can you do with that? That's just, you know, it's just delusional. What I'll come on to is just talking about the future and talking about things changing. This week we had the Trust AGM and a new board was appointed. Steve, did you manage to make it online to the meeting? You said you might be going on.
No, I couldn't make it in the end. The timings didn't quite work out, so I couldn't make it. But I was trying to sort of keep up to speed with everything, and it seems as though nothing dramatic sort of came out of the meeting from what I can see. But I'll
tell you what, I think it's pretty dramatic though, Steve. It's how many members voted and how many members there are in the trust. I think it was 160 something members voted, was it?
I'm looking now. 112 members participated in the vote with one discarded ballot. Actually, how many? Well, technically, isn't every season ticket holder automatically a member? So you've got 1,600 members there, and only 112 voted. I think that's a shocking indictment of what the trust is. Well, just how much people care about the trust. I don't really want to say too much about them, but useless comes to mind.
Well, look, listen. It is what it is. I'm not going to point things at any individual. I'm just going to point a finger at those statistics and say this is where it is. I don't even think that if you're automatically made a season ticket holder, that season ticket holders know that necessarily and what that means. So there's just been a massive breakdown of communication. They're not able to communicate to fans in the way that they should be. Fans aren't listening in the way that we'd hope they would be and not responding to them. It's fundamentally broken. Is there any hope that this new board has got the nous experience, personality, and whatever it takes to be able to change that?
I've seen the guy from the JP Morgan guys back. I think he quit last time, but he's back now. I think his name's Jason Flynn.
Jason Flynn,
yeah.
The thing is with the trust, their way of operating last year, when they never went ahead with that protest at the Mansfield game, and they still trying to find the right word to say, whether they tried to still be in league with the Oldham board and still try to be friends with them and send polite letters rather than, knocking down the door. I know there's only so much power they have, but I just think they went around things completely the wrong way, and their communication was terrible. I think the board representative never showed himself in a good light. He never seemed to fully grasp the issues that the fans were raising with him and the trust. And the trust kind of just seemed to ignore it and try to do their own thing, which just got worse and worse every time they ever, produce something. I think the new person who has taken the helm at the trust, and you're going to have to remind me of her name, I think it's Philippa. Yeah, she seems to have her head screwed on. She wrote a very good post, and maybe, hopefully, with a new look, they can actually, try to achieve something. Yeah.
That it's last chance saloon for them, isn't it? I mean, this is a new, obviously, I know this reset isn't welcomed by Oldham fans at the moment, but for them, it is a reset of where they are. Obviously, all of them, apart from one, have been on the board before. So they know what they need to do. If it doesn't work this time...
Do they know what they need to do? Because if they've been on the board before and the trust is where it is now, it's like saying, Mo's been the sporting director before, so he obviously knows, he's been in the job 3 years, so he knows what needs to be done to fix things, but he obviously doesn't. So is that not the same issue with the trust?
I think it's a really, really pivotal moment for him, to be honest. I think the makeup of the board looks okay. I mean, if they don't sort of understand now that there's massive problems at that football club and that they need to do something about it, then they'll never get that message. This is why the trust is in place. The trust was put in place to stop 2004 happening again. We are on the verge of something big happening at this football club, whether it's a relegation, whether it's more financial issues. Something will happen, and it's up to them to stop that happening. I think the stance that they've taken in the past over stuff has just been a little bit on the fence. I think they've not necessarily known which direction to go in, whether it's the direction towards the fans or to sort of keep relationships going with the club. I mean, my take on that would be I think they probably try to keep the relationship with the club, but to what end? They weren't told about key things that were going on. They weren't told about Dino going. They weren't told about administration, things like that. So even though they sort of were harbouring a better relationship with the club, it didn't really benefit us in any way. If we'd have gone under, and when Blitz took us to court for the not paying the debenture and the rent, then that relationship means nothing. So they've got to work on that. They've got to do what is best for the fans of this football club. And I know the membership isn't where it should be, but each fan that isn't a member is a potential member. So it's not just about representing the members; it's about representing the fans.
Yeah, well, we know from our own experience of what people think, that people have lost faith in the trust. So the willingness to sign up is just not there. They're not. I mean, you just look at the Twitter account. You know what kind of engagement you can get on Twitter if you post the right things. If you work, social media is something you have to work hard at. You have to post a lot. You have to follow. You have to engage. You have to take time to use the tool correctly. And Trust Oldham's engagement on there is absolutely abysmal, and that is the one way of communicating directly with, like you said, trust members, potential trust members, and they're not doing it. We're doing our bit. We're trying to engage with fans. We're engaging with more fans than Trust Oldham are through Push the Boundary, through this podcast. But nobody from the trust is getting in touch with us. They haven't so far. Maybe they're watching, maybe they're listening, maybe they're not. But they're going to have to go about things a lot differently. They can't just repeat the same mistakes that have been made. And I think that they're putting themselves in a position where they're going to have to be replaced at some point if they don't, and I'm talking some point soon, if they do not do something radical in the next few weeks. They're at that point. Yeah. It's like a union. The only strength they've got is in their numbers, and they don't have any numbers. They can't put the board under the Latics board under any pressure if they haven't got numbers behind them. If they haven't got strength in their union, and they really haven't. So they're basically just a waste of time, as it currently is, as it stands. And I think we need to put pressure on. They're supposed to represent us on the board, and they do not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think we're being unfair saying that. I think that's a fair comment, and they need to book their ideas up because they've made
It's the future of the club at stake here.
I think push the boundary of, obviously, we've offered our support when they were looking at reforming. Now they've reformed, we need to talk.
Yeah.
I think it's essential for, obviously, both groups to be singing off the same hymn sheet, because obviously previously they haven't been. And obviously after this last couple of weeks, how everything's been on social media, I don't see any way where we can't be singing off the same hymn sheet now. We need to be going in the same direction because things are getting quite serious.
Yeah. No, we're past the point of no return now. And one of the things that I'm getting is this sense of something needs to happen. Something needs to happen. We need to stop talking about all this, and we need to start doing. And we need to start mobilising. Now, you know that I've got my own ideas on this and my own vision in place, and I'm not going to talk about it just yet because there's still some work that needs to be done. But this is a time for positive action. This is a time where we need money, we need numbers, we need a movement that is going to be directly for the fans, by the fans, with a view of having an increased voice in that football club properly, seriously. Not just chatting about it and getting frustrated and annoyed. Action. It's a time for action, not words.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. And it doesn't help the fact that we've lost the first 3 league games. I think we've always banged on about the fact that stability is driven by stuff that happens off the pitch, not on it. If we'd have won the first 3 league games, I think our message would still be the same. We still want stability off the pitch, but the fact that we've lost the first 3 games doesn't help. Really, really doesn't help. And to be fair, I actually thought we'd start the season off better, but here we are, and we've got some tough games coming up. I think fans are seeing that. I think you can see people coming together. You can see people wanting to do things, and I think that's good to see. We need that. We need fans to be angry. We need fans to want to do something, because the worst thing that we've suffered from in the last few years is just being apathetic about what is happening to this football club and not caring.
And you know what? We're all scared now because we can all see Christmas coming up, and we can all see us being adrift at Christmas at the bottom of the league. It'll come round thick and fast. You know what I mean? 2 games a week, we'll soon lose ground. We'll soon be struggling. And all right, we won't be on our own because there'll be other teams that are down there struggling as well. But it's going to start getting into a high pressure relegation fight. And then the last thing I want to be doing is waiting until we're really, really, really in the shit before we start going, we need to do something here. We are in the shit, and we do need to start doing something as fans. Yeah. If Trust Oldham aren't able to lead us, then we're going to have to look elsewhere, and we're going to have to go to Trust Oldham, and we're going to have to say, right, you need to do what we want you to do, not the other way around. There's your board. You've got contact with the clubs. This is what we want you to do, and the only way that we're going to do that is through groups like your own, who are already established, have already got good numbers. And that's you're going to have to, Trust Oldham. This is a direct call to Trust Oldham. Contact, push the boundary, stop messing about. You need help. Acknowledge that you need help. Put your hands up. Reach out to what support's already there and get on it quickly. Yeah. Because otherwise, people are going to be coming to take what you have away from you because you're not doing it right. And I can't put it any clearer than that, really.
Absolutely. That's where we're at. That's exactly where we're at. I mean, I feel a bit more calm about it this morning, but I mean, yesterday I was fizzing, absolutely fizzing. I don't take defeats well at the best of times. I think last night I was just furious, to be honest, and just pissed off with the constant week after week after week and the stuff that comes out of the club and the bad news. And, you want to come on and you want to be talking about a win. You want to be talking about a positive sign, and you want to be anything positive. As a group last night, we were absolutely furious with it. And we're going to have a call, I think, tomorrow just to discuss what we do next. We saw a lot of the comments that were on social media yesterday, and and we appreciate people that were tagging us into stuff. So we're going to have a chat. We're going to speak to Trust Oldham this week. But we appreciate stuff needs to happen. Things need to move.
I think the club is past the point of where Abdal and Mo, or anyone on that board for that matter, can do anything to turn turn this sinking ship around, because they've proven nothing since he rocked up in August and gave John Sheridan a bunch of random trialists. Ever since then, he has never improved. He has never shown anything that he's willing to change his ways. He seems to be more bothered about, playing politics and falling out with people than actually running the football club. I don't really know the ins and outs of the North Stand issue, but surely the club can sit down and have a discussion and get that sorted out. They don't want to because it's an ego problem. Surely they can sit down with David Wheater, Gary Woods and try to sort something out. They can't do. It's an ego problem. It stems back to, we let Jack Byrne go for free. How much is he worth now in today's market? Craig Davis, he fell out with him. The list goes on and on. Peter Clark, Paul Scholes, Pete Wild. We could be sitting here blue in the face, reading out names in different quotes. Everyone knows. Everyone who follows the club knows. And we're at a point now. We were at a point, I'd say, about 18 months ago, where it's not changing. They're not going to change. This is just how they are. This is just who they are. This is just how they operate.
Yeah, Ed, I think you're right, mate. We've it's just been repetitive. There's been issues with players that in terms of finances, like you said, players that should have been worth something have gone, and we're losing resources in terms of players. We're losing resources in terms of personnel. We're losing resources in terms of money, fans. We're losing resources left, right, and centre. The club is just going to be left with what is going to be left of it.
Do you remember what we were talking about last week, Matt? So I'm 21 now, and all I've known is League One. But what about when I started watching Latics? We made the playoffs. Wow! But that's what got me hooked. What is there to get anyone of that age, 4, 5, 6, 7, to get them hooked to go watch Oldham Athletic? There is nothing. You'd rather go and watch Kevin De Bruyne every week, and rightly so. There is absolutely. I think we are. It's a very difficult point in the club's history now, because we could lose. Well, we have lost a massive chunk of the fan base. We've gone from, I think, when we went back to League Two and Frankie Bunn started, it was just on that edge of if we took off, we could have got back up to around 5,000 or 6,000, but it didn't. We stayed down, and I think most games barely went over 3,000 last season. Now, obviously, with the season ticket sales as well, I'm really worried that there is not going to be any new blood coming through to go and watch Oldham. Obviously, it's a family thing for many people, but it's extremely worrying, especially as we're in danger of dropping out the Football League altogether. I think we're on course to lose, like we already have done, so many more fans, and actually lose potential ones.
And it's not just about new fans coming, it's about keeping the ones, like you said, that we've got, but also then putting money into the club in regards to sponsorship, all the different ways of sponsorship, the match ball sponsors, the match sponsor, even down to sponsoring a player's bootlaces that the kids can do. There's so much money not going into the club at the moment, purely because people do not want to be associated with us.
Yeah, and we've seen that with sponsors, haven't we? We've seen that recently on social media with sponsors withdrawing their interest in supporting the club.
We've had 4 or 5 quite big sponsorships email us saying, until there's change, I'm not going back to the club. I am not putting money into the club. I want to, but I can't. Yeah. It's sad. You don't want to be seeing that.
No, my thoughts on that is that there needs to be an alternative for that players for that money to go. And that's all I'll say on that at the moment in time. But people can read into that as they want. But the interest is there. The fans are there. You don't go from taking 6,000 fans to Anfield and 4,000 fans to Fulham in the last few years in the FA Cup and packing Boundary Park against Liverpool with 12,000 fans or whatever it is, 10,000, 8,000 Oldham. You don't go from that to them not being interested over the course of a few years. You don't just abandon the football club in principle like that. It's not the football club that people are abandoning, is it? We know that.
No.
No.
I honestly think a complete change in approach through a new owner would see a lot of the old people return. And when I say old people, I mean people who have stopped, paying for season tickets, coming to matches, purely because they don't want to be associated with it.
Yeah.
People need something good, a feel-good factor to come back to this club. And I can't see any other way at this moment in time until everyone knows what needs to happen.
They need to be removed root and stem. It's cancerous what is happening, and it has been for as long as he's been here. There's never been signs of glimmer. Maybe the week leading up to Queen's Mini signing. Man, I think that's the only time I've ever been so excited. We see how that turned out. It was actually worth it for that goal against Blackburn, I reckon.
Of course he was,
yeah, definitely.
But that was worth 11 grand a week.
Yeah, it cost the club an absolute fortune. But it just goes to show that was just an exercise in delusion. It's just like, oh yeah, this is what we can do. The fans. I think his comments were something like, "I just wanted to give the fans a treat."
Yeah,
it's like Football Manager. This is real life, Abdallah. You can't be chucking around those wages at our level. Yeah. And of course, Queen's League hated it because he's used to great setups in Europe. Was he a kid at Ajax? So he's gone from the training grounds of Ajax. Flew out to FC Nantes under the leadership of Claudio Ranieri. Gets a phone call. Queen's
Come down to Chapel Road.
Oldham are interested, son. Pack your bag. And you just imagine going down Chapel Road and thinking, oh my God, whatever oh my God is in Dutch, probably rest his mouth.
You see, that's where if you were a kid like me, I went to St Margaret's School. Chapel Road playing field was that's where I played my first games of football for my school team, under that mill. That I got christened in that church on Chapel Road. It doesn't really make any difference to me. I'm not Christian or whatever. But my mum and dad got married in that church. You know what I mean? I'm just saying that big it doesn't. I had no choice. Nobody asked me if I wanted to be christened. They didn't. I was too little.
Maybe we should have christened Queensy.
The point is that I got run over by a bike on Chapel Road when I was crossing the road on my way from school once.
Like this is your life, this.
I know, I'm talking about. I'm not
going to red book, don't
I'm not going to cry though.
And we're going to bring out the owner of that
bike. But my point is, I used to have this old Latics shirt, with the Umbro signs all down the arm that were all linked up with the old badge with the owl. And I had my goal of football boots, and I used to play on Chapel Road, and so if you're bringing through young kids that have been fans, like you're saying, from 4, 5, 6 years of age, and then you're bringing them through onto that, then that means something to those kids to play, to be training on Chapel Road, to be going and, we used to go and play on the pitch at Boundary Park when it was plastic, because you used to go on with the community. It meant something to do that. It was exciting. The thought of playing in the first team at Boundary Park was something that we all wanted as kids. But like you said, bringing in people like that, it's just a step down for them, and it's not inspiring. So clearly, the future of the club is not in that direction. It's in having much better youth setups that bring kids through and get them on board. So there's a much bigger plan. That £500,000 that he wasted on him could have gone a very, very long way towards establishing something like that.
You look at the soccer schools that we used to have when John Platt used to run them, and they used to have players coming down to them, presenting, people with the trophies at the end of the tournament and everything else. And you'd be absolutely starstruck because these players that have played for the club for years, and whereas now you look at them and most kids wouldn't even have a clue who most of them are because they change that frequently.
Yeah, exactly. They're gone in 2 minutes. Yeah. I've lost track of them. I have no idea. Every season, we've forgotten more Oldham players than you can remember now. They're here and they're gone, and they barely do anything. So it's a massive structural project that needs undertaking. But this is about investing in the town and investing in the club.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Oldham is a massive town. I think the population is nearly 250,000 or something like that. And the fact that we're even getting 4,000 fans, I know all the clubs that are right next door to us, but a town that size, similar to other teams which get 15,000 on the regular, there is something amiss there, and we know it because it's been 25 years of stagnation. Everyone who ever comes into the club talks about the potential. I'm bored to death of hearing about potential, but it's there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's definitely there. There is so much. I know it probably just goes with what you're saying, but there is so much potential at that club, and I think if certain things happened, say for instance Abdallah left the club tomorrow and someone else took over, the gates probably would go up. Let's be honest. Once
just based on that alone. Yeah,
we have to be honest about that. Yeah.
Yeah. But we now, as fans, anyone who's listening to this, anyone who's involved on the hashtag on a Saturday, because if you're involved on the hashtag, then you still care, even if you say you don't, because otherwise you wouldn't be there, you wouldn't be tweeting, you wouldn't be listening, you wouldn't be watching, you'd be out doing something else. There's still people that are there, we still care, but it's up to us. Let's not beat around the bush. It is up to us as fans to make this change, to put enough pressure on the club. We're going to need organising, we're going to need leadership, we're going to need to do stuff, but we're going to have to take this responsibility on ourselves. We need a bigger stake in the club financially. We need a bigger union. Let's look at it in terms of a union where we need to unionise. We need to politicise ourselves, and we need to force the change that we want for the good of our town and the good of our club. Because if we leave it up to these lads, they'll just leave it ruined in our 125th year.
I really hope the Trust pick up the phone, Matt, because I think this is where they've been lacking for so many years, isn't it? This opportunity to mobilise, to get a coherent voice together. Everything is it just feels the fan base is so segmented into like different little camps of, I'm Sterling Abdallah in, or just I want him out.
The Trust have backed themselves into a corner, haven't they? They backed themselves into a corner where they feel like they are under pressure, under attack from fans, and they don't know how to deal with it. And that's unfortunately the reality. They are in that situation, and I don't think that works in anybody's best interest. It's certainly not working in the fans' interest. It's not working in the Trust's interest. So somebody needs to build a bridge. Now, I'm looking directly at the two representatives from Push the Boundary when I'm saying that, because you're in the best position to be able to do that, and the Trust need to acknowledge that, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, I know we've thrown some criticism at the Trust, and I think we stand by that. Yeah, we stand by it. We did it for a reason, and I know that they weren't particularly happy when they first received it.
Sounds very much like they. So,
sometimes no one likes being criticised. We don't like it, but at least we sort of try and take that constructively on board and say, well, you know what, could be done that differently. Have they got a point? Maybe. And I think
going to please everyone, you need to get the majority right, don't you?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the Trust they've not caught the imagination of any of the supporters to see how they can move forward. And unfortunately, if they don't, like I've said before, they need to get it right. We're willing to speak with them. We're going to try and speak to them this week, because obviously something needs to be sorted this week where we can come together and see how we move forward, because it's getting desperate.
And I think the other thing I want to touch on as well is it's getting increasingly under my skin is the press, is the local media. Mm-hmm. The way that the local media are just sitting by watching this happen. Give us your thoughts, Oldham fans. I know they won't take kindly to me saying this, but part of me is just beyond caring, because we've had Mac, we've had Wigan, we've had Bury. People have sat by and watched it happen. You can bet if we were doing days of going bust, you'd have Sky Sports cameras down at the ground, talking to fans. Isn't this a disaster? Montages on TV, all kinds of different things. It's just people have to step in and people have to ask the right questions. Forget about cozying up to the football club so that they get allowed back in the boardroom, or allowed to, commentate on games or whatever. Like this is critical for the future of the club now. Local press, national media need to be asking the right questions. I mean, the comment that nearly made my... Oh, absolutely. I mean, Matt would be...
Yeah.
He'd be
Matt would be all over this. He'd be all over it.
What I'll say, lads, in the absence of that, we live in an age where we can be the media. We can put out podcasts. We can broadcast. We can do what they aren't doing. Now, we might not have access to the people on a regular basis, but we can make that happen if we bang loud enough on the door. And Push the Boundary, for example, is in that position. Like, we're just going to have to get a lot more aggressive in our approach. I don't mean that physically or whatever. I just mean as much as some fans might want us to do that, but I'm a good Christian lad, as we've said already. But I mean, in terms of being more like a dog with a bone, not letting go of this. I sent a tweet out yesterday, just showing the results and saying, look what you're doing, Mo and Abdallah. You're more than welcome to come on this podcast. If they come on this podcast, I'm not going to give them an easy ride, but I will be fair, and I will ask them questions directly. that and I will not put up with the kind of wishy-washy nonsense answers. But they're not going to do it. They're not going to come on. People reply to that tweet going, you're mad. He's not going to do it. Well, I still have to put it out there. I trust Oldham. They can come on here. They're going to get the same treatment. Somebody needs to be asking the right people the right questions and not putting up with the kind of answers that we've been getting. And that's the bottom line.
Yeah.
It was interesting when Adam said that they rocked up to, sorry, Steve, like when they went to, what was it, when you read out quotes to Abdallah of like previous players that you heard following that with. Just to go back to Steve's point, how is the local media not doing this? They don't fancy it, do they? It is really annoying me as well. I think I replied to mine every tweet asking him. I get about 15 likes every time because everyone's in the same boat, because they just want someone to step up. And if it ever gets to the point where the Sky cameras are rocking up, it'll be too late. It will be too late. It can't ever get to that point, I hope. Yeah. Because if they are putting the montages on the telly, then that's as good as a funeral.
Yeah, exactly. We're already
I think you're looking at where we are now. Genuinely think Abdallah is a very lucky man that fans aren't in the ground at the moment.
100%, yeah.
Because obviously, fans have been asking us to do protests, and obviously we can't do protests at the moment purely because of COVID and the fines that Great Manchester Police are handing out, like £10,000. Another one got issued yesterday. It's not financially viable for anyone to be doing that. He's so lucky that people aren't there, because I genuinely think the anger would be a lot worse. I know it's bad now, but it'd be on another level, I genuinely think, if fans were there.
Yeah.
The away end of Stevenage would have been something else, I reckon. They would have been beautiful but horrible.
But this is what's very frustrating.
This is what he needs to see, though, doesn't it? Yeah. Because he's not seeing the frustration at the moment. Yeah. Obviously, he's got his certain people believed to be using false Twitter accounts and things like that to have a look at what's going on. He needs to be seeing it face to face, because unfortunately, him having COVID almost protected him at the moment in a weird way. He's wrong on all levels, isn't it?
I think somebody touched on it on Twitter the other day, and they were talking about Kuehl, and they were saying how Kuehl potentially could never actually have to face the fans. If his record continues in the same vein as it is now, I mean, there's every chance that he's not going to be here by the time that fans are allowed back in the stadium. So, but the tack that I think Kuehl has taken at the moment has been very much in the camp of the owner. Mm-hmm. He's not been coming out and doing this club's got great potential and, I want to do it for the fans. And he's not told that line whatsoever since he joined. It's all been very much, I know how to keep the owner happy. And, and the comments of supporting the Woods and Wheater situation. I mean, who knows? Maybe he's not picking Woods and Wheater because he's not part of his plans. But, I mean, let's be honest.
If he's not part of his plans and we've lost 3 on the bounce, then not being funny, he needs to go now, doesn't he? Because at the moment, I wouldn't be suggesting that the manager is the issue. But I genuinely think at this moment in time, he's probably part of the issue because he's accepting of it.
I think those comments, I don't know if you can expand on it, Matt, but I mean, all I heard yesterday was the post-match that the club put on Twitter, which was basically where he said, he sounded like a man who was completely lost in what he was doing. He was like, we need to, I'm not going to do the accent, we need to work harder, we need to continue to work hard, and we need to believe in it. And I was just like, oh my God, like he's not even attempting to sort of break this down tactically as to what went wrong, just throwing cliches out. That was a big concern for me.
It's very much a media-trained approach, isn't it?
Yeah, it's saying nothing. Say nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
Just saying nothing. We're saying 3 minutes of nothing. You know what? Remember when Richie Wellens took over? The honesty. His interviews, his press conferences were fantastic because
Sheridan, Wild, these sort of people.
Yeah, it was just like you were hearing what you wanted to hear. You could say, yeah, you're right. You saw the same game of football that I saw. With Kuehl, it's like he is not popular amongst the fans. I do not think he's his personality.
It's not very engaging, is it?
It's not very engaging. And I'm not gonna I'm not going to get personal with him, but I'm just saying, like, he's not got anyone on board, I don't think, in terms of his footballing now. We all know it's an hard job for him. You know, there was some decisions that he made in terms of the selection. And the thing is, he knows that if he did what needs to be done, if he said, David Wheater, you're club captain, get the armband on, you're playing. I don't care. I need you in my team because we're leaking goals. Yeah. I need you. That's what I'd do. And when Abdallah came in, then there'd be an issue. But he knows if he does that, he's out the door. He knows he's out. Yeah. If he challenges, he's out the door, and he knows that. And that's the situation that we're in.
Surely he does not need the job that
well,
much.
If he wants to be
told the line to that extent.
But if he wants to be a football manager, now Harry Kewell might not be good enough to be a football manager. He's been at Notts County, he's been at Crawley, now he's at Oldham. It's not exactly a glamorous CV. He's not done anything at any of those clubs. He needs to do something. He needs to try and do something at Oldham if he wants to get another job, doesn't he? In England, you know, I'm sure he can get a job somewhere, you know, where managing in the Slovenian league or something like that. But you're over there, Steve.
I'm not sure.
But you know, but he needs the job from that point of view. Doesn't he? Man, I need the money, but he needs the success on the pitch. Unfortunately, we could have told him before he joined, if you want to be a manager that's going to get success on the pitch, don't come to Oldham as it currently stands, because that's not going to happen.
And you do worry, you know, if the chairman does give him the boot, you know, which if it currently continues, it wouldn't be completely out of character for him, would it?
No, he will.
You know, where do we go next? Where do we go next?
The youth team manager.
Yeah,
that's where it'll go next.
Yeah,
I personally think that's where he's going.
Great. Yay. Some other dude who we've absolutely no idea about, who's probably not going to be up to the job. Because this is the kind of job that needs a very, very, very talented individual, because it needs somebody that can come in and put up with all the shite that the board, that Abdallah and Mo are giving him, and still get the best
keep
out
them
of
at arm's length.
Yeah, and still get the best out of a bunch of sub-quality players. So where on earth we're going to find that person, I do not know.
I think Dino was very close in January with some of the players that he got in. I wasn't a massive fan of Dino Ball, if you want to call it that. But at the same time, he was making an ugly League Two squad, which is what you need. But like everyone, he didn't last too long, and he was another one of many that have, shall we say, disagreed with the board. So I don't know what Kewell's plan is. He doesn't seem to really have any tactical nous about him, really. I don't even know what setup we're playing. There doesn't seem to be a coherent plan when we go out onto that pitch. I think he just tells them, right, boys, go out there and have fun. But
I'm not even doing that.
Obviously not. But how far can the manager go? Like, how much can they do when such a problem lies at the board, and actually they're the ones making the majority of the decisions, aren't they?
It's almost like they're expecting to stumble over, by continuing to do what they do, they're expecting to sort of stumble over this winning formula.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, Abdallah obviously has faith that Mo knows what he's doing, or that Mo can get the combination right, and he's giving him time. Mo's obviously saying, look, I've just got to get the right blend. I'm looking at the right players and the right coach, and it'll come together. I don't know at what point they're expecting that to happen, because clearly by sacking Dino and doing what they've done, they are responsible for us being bottom of League Two, because they brought in a new coach and a whole load of new players, and here we are. So they're responsible. I think you've already said it, Adam, today. We all know the only thing, the next person to go has to be Mo as footballing director. That is the change that is needed, first and foremost.
Yeah.
There's no point sacking Harry Kewell. Sack Harry Kewell, yeah, by all means, if he's not getting results, but sack Mo at the same time and bring in a football manager to manage the football. That is what we need.
Yeah.
Before Abdallah goes, we know Abdallah has to go, or he has to change his, but Mo has to go.
Yeah, I mean, it's that, you know, you talk about that nepotism, aren't we? You know, about the club mentioned from the previous regime, and it's like, well, you know, as long as you've got your brother, you're not going to sack your brother. You know, it's just plain and plain and simple. It's just not going to happen.
Right. Well,
what do you do?
Well, no, that's not the way it works. This is a football club with thousands and thousands of people who care about it. But we care about it a lot more than we care about Mo, and we care about it a lot more than we care about Abdallah. Abdallah needs to sack his brother, And that just needs to happen because he's not doing his job properly. So that message just needs to be rammed home to the club.
Yeah.
It's not fair on Harry Kewell. It's not fair on the players. It's not fair on any of the managers that have come before. People have been in position with their dream jobs. People that we wanted to run the football club have had to go because he keeps getting it wrong. So, yeah, you're right, Steve. I know that he's not going to want to sack his brother, but he has to. And that has to be that has to be the next change.
Totally agree. Yeah, completely agree. Yeah.
I think we're past that point, personally.
Yeah.
I think if he'd done that last season, it would have showed some progression to say, listen, I'm committed to this. I want to make it work. He's not changed anything, has he? Apart from the manager and the squad every couple of weeks, ingoings and outgoings, everything stayed the same. There's no way he's going to sack his brother. So for me, there's only one way that we go from there. And, if he's not winning sack his brother, they've both got to go, haven't they?
I think you're right, Adam, because if the cohort of players that Mohamed Lemzigan brought to the club last year, that summer where we had to re-sign Erko Vera as our main striking option, to partner the masterclass in attacking positioning that is Desire Segbe Zankpo. If Mohamed Lemzigan did not warrant the sack after bringing in them players, giving Alex Iacovetti an actual full-time contract, then I don't think he's ever going to go, is he? Wow.
No, I mean, I'm trying to be diplomatic. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to say to Abdallah, if he's listening, or one of his bots is listening or something, that if he wants to stay in charge of the football club and he wants to do something that is going to appease the fans and the people that he actually needs to finance his football club, then that's what he needs to do, and that is the one thing he can do next. If he doesn't do that, it's game over, and we have to get them both out of the club, don't we? And we have to make a concerted effort as a fan base, because that's what I'm saying.
I think they've shown us absolutely nothing. In the year that we've been around, we've given them opportunity after opportunity after opportunity to say how things are going to change, what's going to get better, and all it's become clear is that nothing's changed. It's just the same rubbish, badged up slightly differently. And it can only go on for so long. This club is at a crossroads now. It really is. I got messaged separately by two Stockport fans who were reading up on, match reports and stuff that was going on Twitter, and they both said to me separately, this just reminds of us in 2009. And it's there. They can see it. They can see what's happening. And I think more and more fans are sort of coming around to the idea that the direction of travel that we're in. Surely
the point of opportunity now for them has gone. For me, it went a long time ago, I think, when Paul Scholes were. But surely I was just saying it earlier, it's just that there is no return from this for them, for me anyway. There is no speaking to them, there is no changing them. And I think Matt is right. Something needs to be mobilised in a sense of something that the fans can unite under. One umbrella for all, because an opportunity for Abdallah and Mohamed to speak is just going to leave more people angry and confused, and the questions won't lead anywhere. They'll dodge them, or they won't give honest answers because they're not honest people. It's a harsh line, but they're not honest people, and I don't trust them at all. I haven't done for a long time, actually. Yeah, well, Matt's right. Something needs to happen, and something needs to happen fast before the Sky cameras rock up at the gates.
I think fundamentally they don't have the fans at the core of what they want to achieve at this football club. I don't think they put the fans first on many an occasion, or any occasion, really. Let's be honest.
The problem is that they thought they were when they went in. They had this kind of notion that if we do this and we do that, name Boundary Park again, and we say a few of the right things, then that'll be enough.
And I think that was good at the time. People did look at that and go, "Oh, that's a great idea." Or the Joe Royal stand, but unfortunately, it wasn't really a precursor for everything that came after that. There's only so many good news stories you can badge up. The bad news continues to happen. And the bad news is getting considerably worse than what the good news is.
So I think, just to sort of wrap up now, because we're coming to the end, action is what we need. The Trust has a new board. Push the Boundary is nearly at 1,000 members. If you've not signed up to Push the Boundary, sign up. We need that 1,000 members. We need more than that. We need a lot more than that. But if we can get to 1,000, then we're on the road. We start putting pressure then as a supporters group on the Trust and on the club, and we start being proactive. All I'll say is that, if you're listening to this, get involved and let's start doing it. With the time of talking is over. It's doing time now before we end up going out of business and losing our football club and having to start all over again like Bury have.
We always say it's Push the Boundary. If anyone's got any concerns, thoughts, suggestions, ideas, whatever you want to put to us, email us. Go to the website, put forward your ideas, because it's not just about what the four of us want, it's about what everyone wants.
Yeah.
And if you don't put your ideas forward, we can't work with them. We'll get back to you. It's normally within the day.
Yeah.
Probably quicker than that. We will get back to you as soon as we can. And, whatever ideas are there, we'll talk to you about.
But that's the thing. It doesn't matter what it is, because you can start pulling all these little bits of information together. One person has one little idea that's brilliant. That's a brilliant idea. We'll put that there. With that, you start building up this bigger picture of what the club needs, and you're feeding into it. It's the same with a podcast. Get in touch with us. You want to put something out there. If you want a question, if you want us to do something, you want us to talk to somebody, you want us to ask a question, whatever it is. But stop bitching and start getting involved. I don't mean stop bitching I just mean bitch about whatever, but get involved as well. Start doing as well. Don't just leave it as let's focus it. Let's turn our anger into action.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll put the credits and all the rest of it to the where to sign up and all that at the end of the show. I'd just like to thank Steve and Adam from Push the Boundary for getting involved again this week, and Ed. Of course. It's is it Ed OAFC or OAFC Ed on Twitter?
It's OAFC Ed.
OAFC
Ed. We have to check.
I've had a couple.
Good stuff. And if you want to get on the podcast and you want to come and have a chat, send me a voice message so that I can check that your English and pronunciation is up to standard. We're very high standards on this podcast, as you can tell. So, thanks a lot, lads. I'm gonna sign us off now. Cheers, boys. The Boundary Park Alert System is a Studio 6 production. It's hosted, edited and mixed by me, Matt Dean. You can contact me on Twitter at DublinOAFC and the show on Twitter, Instagram and Facebook at OAFC Podcast. Our email is bpalertsystem@gmail.com for all your voice messages, and please, if you like the show, do review and subscribe on whichever platform you listen. If you'd like to know more about Push the Boundary, you can visit their website pushtheboundary.co.uk and follow them on Twitter at PTB_OAFC. The title music for the show is by DJ and producer Starion, and you can visit redlaserrecords.bandcamp.com for more information. Thanks for listening.